Okay, so from the first session that Malathi went through, we really wanted to just get across that there are a range of systems that we work with, and the general practice or the health service level is definitely a system. We call it a microsystem because it's generally smaller systems, but it is a system, and it is owned or controlled or managed by probably people in this room, and you can make changes to it. So what we want to work through from now is, well, how would you go about making changes to it? Because one of the really interesting or different things about healthcare systems is, unlike the people on the slide that were shown to be the pioneers of quality improvement that did it in manufacturing, you can't take your system offline and do some blind tests because you're in a live system. So this is why we need to have a lot of control around how we change that system, because if you make a change and it's actually not an improvement, that means somebody's not getting as good a care as they probably could have got. And ideally you want to make sure that is absolutely minimised and you're making right changes as you go along. So we know that we can make some changes to the system, and to do that we certainly recommend you have a quality plan in place. Now, most organisations will have some sort of a strategic plan or a business plan, or both, where the strategic plan is very much multi-year, business plans are generally annually. Quality plans, not as much of, but there certainly are more around now. But then you really need to take it a bit further into QI strategy and tactics. So what are you actually going to do about it? And then how you go about doing it, that moves into the model for improvement, which we'll be going later, which is entirely about testing system changes. Now, strategic planning, a number of things in here, and some of these things find their way across into the quality plan, things like critical business issues or SWOT analysis, that contextual stuff. So you might have strengths and weaknesses within your organisation, and you want to take account of those, especially when you're looking at where do you start. There's certainly no point in starting on a thing that's really hard. You want to start on something that's a lot easier, where you've got a lot of support around it. So if you've got clinicians in your organisation that have got particular interests in, say, quality or in clinical areas, then that's not a bad place to look at starting. But if you wouldn't pick an area where nobody's interested, that's hard. So key elements that we've put into the QI plan, and we have got a template we'll be showing you a bit later on today that you can steal if you want to. But effectively, we're looking at just having some background context to where the organisation is at the moment, and that's very much understanding your, where your organisation is with the data, the results within the system. Really talking about the quality team. So to get this in place, somebody needs to actually coordinate the quality within the area. Now, that doesn't have to be the person that does it all. Ideally, there's a couple of people, and these quality plans ideally will probably go across a year. So we're certainly recommending that you find one area to focus on. So when we ask people as a pre-work coming to this workshop, where were the areas of interest, and we've seen quite a lot of people do that pre-work, and areas, things like diabetes, chronic disease, data quality, these things were definitely coming through. But it's an area of focus, and we think one area of focus is enough for a year. Because if you're looking at any other chronic disease, for example, it will take you about a year to get that to a point where you go, well, we're pretty happy with what we're doing here. It takes a fair while to change a general practice system. It's not super easy. So don't think you can rush out and get it done in a few weeks or a couple of months. It's very, very difficult. So that's why we said one focus area and a really nice goal around what you're trying to achieve. And then measurement, how are you going to measure it? And we'll be going into measurement a bit later on. And then, of course, well, what are you going to do about it? What are the key headline things you might be able to do about it? And one of the things that a lot of organisations focus on to start with is data quality. How do we actually get that to a point where we actually know what we're talking about completely within the system? Because if you are missing, your data's not complete or it's inaccurate, well, you've only got part of the story. So what we might do who's logged on to Slido at the moment? Is everyone comfortable with Slido? It's really cool. If you've got a mobile device, which is probably everybody, you've got instructions on the table about how you can get into Slido. And we've got a poll live at the moment, which you can contribute to. And we're going to put the results up. So we've got 22 people responded so far, out of probably about 40. So we've got a few more to go in. But we're really looking to see, you know, the percentage of people that really got a plan in place. And the beauty of this is nobody knows whose hand's being held up at the moment. So you don't feel compelled to put yes or no. It doesn't matter. But they're up over 30 at the moment. We can see that, you know, probably half, around half don't have a plan in place. For those that do have a plan in place, that's fantastic. And if you have got a plan in place, you can perhaps look at the template, see if there's any improvements can be had. But certainly one of the things that is really important in that quality plan is the team, making sure the team are there, but also the team has actually some resources to do something. And that's like protected time is what we're talking about, and essentially, because if you're going to give a person the job to coordinate the plan and say it's just on top of your normal job, well then that's going to be pretty hard. All right, it just goes to the bottom of the list. But if you're going to give them protected time, and that really only needs to be maybe a couple of hours every fortnight, it's time to work on some model for improvement stuff, trying to coordinate the plan. Other people need to be involved in testing the system. This isn't just the person doing it or the two people that are coordinating it. Everyone's got to be involved. All right, so we've got about half the room that have got a quality plan and half that got one to put in place. And we'll be talking a bit later on about how we can put those in place and work with the PHN to get that support. We've got another poll. Let's make another poll live. And this one is, which response best describes this statement in regard to your organisation? Our organisation has what I believe to be a high-performing team that meets on a regular basis, at least every 2 months, and actively implements quality improvement activities. I guess that was a no over here, was it? All right. Okay, the picture forms pretty quickly. So we've got the smaller proportion here is, yeah, that's us. High performing team, everything's running pretty good. Probably more work to do really, but pretty good. We're just starting, 30% just starting. So there's a fair way to go. And 58%, yeah, we've got more work to do, but we're on our way, which is good. Majority of people are on their way. We just got to get over the hurdle. It's good. We've got one more, haven't we? Let's make another one live. This relates to GP support, I guess, and it's with regard to the support you expect for quality improvement activities from the GPs at your organisation. What best describes your expectations? Okay, so obviously starting to form. We've got some that are supportive. We've got some here where there's at least one GP champion that I can rely on. We've got a group here where there's little support. It's likely to be up to me, 15%. And all the GPs are committee, that's 30%. That's pretty high. The key points out of this is that you really do need to get GP support. That's pretty obvious to get things done. GPs, though, however, don't need to, necessarily be involved in every part of the quality improvement process, because GPs are a scarce resource, incredibly busy. They generally own or have executive control or input into the business, so that's really important. So they need to be involved in that. But do they need to do everything? Well no. A specialisation by comparative advantage would have people like the practice nurses and the practice managers and other staff doing more and less coming from the GP. And this is an area where this contribution can really occur. Certainly if there's very little support, you've really got to get a GP champion on board, because you'll need that sort of support to be able to get this to move forward. Very, very difficult to achieve without a GP champion or GP support. So when we get down to the nitty-gritty, at the end of the day, somebody needs to be saying, well, these are the things we plan to do across the course of the year. If you've got one area of focus, which what we're recommending, some organisations, have multiple, sort of goals to achieve and multiple strategies, and they're quite sophisticated about how they do it. But we're talking about really very busy workplace environments in general practice and emerging skills around quality improvement. So if you've got one area of focus and you've got a few key strategies or tactics you want to achieve, you can spread them out across the year, and different people can take carriage of these as they go across the year. It doesn't have to be the same group. It can be different people, but at least somebody can coordinate it and say, you're up next. We've sort of got data quality under control. And if you're reporting back, so you've got measures and you're reporting back to the team, they're going to be able to see results across that period. And you will get results across the period, and you can put them up on the board and, on a monthly basis, because ideally from the Cat 4 that is available to you here at no cost, if you're actually taking a snapshot every month with that, you'll be able to monitor your improvements over time, because there is a snapshot at least monthly. One of the things about clinical information databases is they're very sophisticated software systems, but not everything in them is actually audited by time. So you change a code one month and you may not know that it's changed in the system. Well, you'll know if you know it, but looking back retrospectively, you can't necessarily say, well, this month we had 400 people living with diabetes coded with that condition, and the next month it's 500, we've lifted the register up. It's hard to say over time unless you're taking that snapshot. So it's important you do that, and it's not that hard. You can set scheduler to run overnight as long as your machine's on. It'll run overnight. You come in the morning, it's done. You've got your monthly snapshot, and you can produce results then for your team and say, this is how we're going. And results are important for teams, because once you start putting it on the board, people take notice and they go, really? Most often they'll go, surely that's not right. We're not that bad. Especially if you've got people, clinicians with an interest in a particular topic area. And we've seen this across the course of the collaboratives work, where we would put up the results around the, the early stages, around the baseline, and some people go, that is definitely not right. The measurement system is wrong. And they would go back and they would start digging into the database to prove that the measurement system was wrong. Now, nearly in all cases it wasn't wrong. Sometimes they found a couple of minor things, but most often it's actually, as people, we inflate how good we think we are at some of these things, and it's not based on reality. So unless you start measuring, then you're not going to have a real factual position on where you stand. So we will go through the template a bit later today, and the support that you'll be able to get from the PHN for those that don't have something in place. And if you have got something in place, that's absolutely fine. Planning is really an organisation by organisation decision, and how you go about it. Some people do it differently, that's fine. But having something in place that says we're going to go that way, we know how we're going to measure ourselves, and we're going to do these things, is a pretty good plan.